is the author of a book called Naked in Eden, how she transformed her life by going into the rainforest of Australia. I asked Robin and Stephen to give a presentation to a private high school that was here earlier in the year from Washington, D.C., and the kids were absolutely spellbound. They were high school students from Washington, from the Field School. So I'm honored to have Stephen Fadden and Robin Easton come to Southwest Seminars this Monday night just for you. Stephen Fadden.
I have lived so close to the earth that is me. It is all of us. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to tell you this one vignette. On this little fringe, where I lived right on the fringe of the rainforest, there was a little clearing. And at the base of the clearing was a little creek. And I would go down to this creek with a 5-gallon bucket to get water. At that time, you could drink the water. It was that pristine. You could stick your face in it and drink it. And I finally got tired of lugging a bucket here and a bucket here and trudging up back up the hill to where I was camped. And so I got a long stick and made like a yoke, and I would carry it on my shoulders and fill these 2 5-gallon buckets and go down to the spring and then trudge back up. And this was a morning ritual. And because I didn't like to bathe or do anything near the actual water, I didn't want, but I was so wild. I was running around barefoot, no clothes a lot of the time. I mean, really running around wild. But I'll tell you about one morning. I was headed down to the creek to get water, and I had the buckets, and I hear this screeching of a bird. And it's like a panic. I can't imitate it, that sound. Stephen might be able to, but I can't. And I knew it was a bird in distress. It was either wounded, something was after it, something was threatening it, it was trapped or caught in something. And so I started tracking the sound, and I thought it might be a bush lark, and it was. And they're a little kind of brownish gray bird with kind of rust-colored wings, and their song is incredible when they aren't in a state of panic. If you've ever heard a lark of any kind, they're just beautiful. It's a melodious, kind of tinkling little sound. You hear it in the evening or the dawn, and your whole heart stops. It's just, you feel like you've touched the divine. It's so sweet. And so I'm tracking this sound, and it started to get some grass the closer I got to this little spring where the water was. And I'm barefoot and naked as usual, and traipsing along, and I'm listening. Where is this? Going quiet, real quietly, softly. And I hear the squeaking, the squawking stops for a minute, and I hear this sound. A what? Yes. And it's a sound when you live in the jungle of the rainforest, because Australia has so many potentially deadly snakes, that if you're way out there and you can't get to help fairly soon, they have great treatment. They're highly advanced in their treatment of snakes. They have all kinds of, they call it antivenin, and they have polyvalent antivenins, so if you don't know what snake bit you, they can still treat you. But the object is you'd have to get there. If you're way out, that gets hard. So you had to be very, very aware. I lived in a constant state of awareness. Not fear, like Stephen said, but just awareness. And that meant educating myself about my environment. Observing these various species. What do they need for territory? Where is their territory? Where do they eat? Are they nocturnal, diurnal? Do they come out at day or night? Are they arboreal? Do they live in the trees? And what is their space? And so respecting those needs. So I have entered their home, in a place where humans didn't typically enter. The Aboriginals entered this area seasonally, but were not there full time, the Kuku-Yalanji. And so I'm hearing this swish, swish, and so I know just to slow. I'm not terribly panicked, I just know, okay, I have to go with caution here. And I kept creeping, following the sound, and then the lark would go up again, start, screeching and screeching, this high, panicky, screeching sound. And I break through the grass to a little, where it's almost clear and kind of muddy, and there is a python. And before I go on, I'll tell you about pythons. They're incredible in this rainforest, the amethystine python or the scrub python. I need 2 volunteers. I need a head and a tail. Who's adventurous to be a volunteer? Okay, you? Who else? You be the head. You be the tail. Okay, Stephen, you help me. The tail's going to start over here. You want to help me measure? Okay, right up against the wall. You're going to stand right here. Okay, so I'm going to measure basically from where you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and sometimes 9. So, where's my head?
Chet, you're the head.
Okay, so we can kind of see for those sitting down. You stand right here. Okay, these pythons in the rainforest can grow this long. From 24 to 27 feet. Now, not quite that big, though they can be. Mid-body scales, yes, in their mid-body scales. It would take probably, if they could wrestle it, 4 to 5 guys. Wow. To hold something like that. And so, I'm going along. Now, the one I saw was only a baby. It was 15 feet. Okay, my head and tail can sit again if you want. Thank you very much. I just wanted you to be able to see that because it's, you know, when someone says, oh, you know, 24, 27-foot snake, that's like, oh yeah, that's big, but I mean, you see, that's almost the length of this room. That's huge. And they are incredible. They're kind of an olivey green, cream-colored belly with black and brown zigzag markings and a big, wide kind of head. They are not poisonous, but they could give a very nasty bite. And you wouldn't want to leave, they can swallow a whole feral pig, they can swallow a wallaby. If you left your baby or your little child unattended, would not be a good idea. It'd be like, imagine this is what they compare it to. Imagine you opening your mouth right now and trying to swallow a watermelon. And so the python can do that. He doesn't dislocate his jaws. He actually has his lower jaw is like 2 plates that are joined. The plates come apart, and then there's this kind of like pocket thing at the underneath on the lower part of his jaw to his throat. And that allows him to expand and take in something. Like if I crouch, for those of you who can see me, a little wallaby about my size, like this. So there's something to be aware of. I've handled far deadlier snakes that were very, very poisonous. And let's go back to this story. This is a terrible topic for me to get on. I will have you going in 20 directions at once because there's so many amazing things about the rainforest. But this lark, I'm going along, creeping up slowly, slowly. I see the python, and he's 5 feet from me. So the lark is here, and the python's coming from where the creek is, and he's coming along, and they can glide so gracefully. You hardly know they're moving, and so quietly. The only reason he made sound, and I knew it was there, was the lark screeching and the grass moving slightly. And when you live like that for years, your eyesight and your hearing becomes animal acute. And your sense of smell, to where you can smell a snake, a wallaby, whatever has passed through the creek bed or through the bushes, you smell it. And this little lark is there, has 3 little babies in a cup-shaped nest on the ground. Oh. Tiny little beings that are not yet big enough to support themselves or survive. And this python's coming, and the mom is screeching, and she dives down above his head and flies up, dives again and screeches at him. She doesn't dare touch him because he could grab her. They can strike faster than your eye can follow. And she's there screeching and screeching and fluttering, panicking. Leave my babies alone. No, you can't have them. And I expected her to fly off to a limb and let the python have the babies so that she could have another brood, and, lay some more eggs and have more babies. Because they will sometimes do that. But she did not. At the last minute, she's doing all this frantic fluttering, squawking, and the snake's coming closer, slowly taking his time, because he knows if she flies off, he can still snack on the babies. They're a small meal for him, but he would eat them. And so he just takes his time. And she's panicking, and he comes closer. And she's diving more frantically above his head and diving and darting. And she get down on the ground and flap her wings and squawk. And finally, he's right 2 feet from me and just inches from her in the nest. She dives down and puts herself, this brave little mother, between the nest and this huge python. And she stays perfectly still, lowers her wings, and tips back her head. And she sings this sweet, sweet song. And the snake is so close, and she's singing, and my first thought is, oh, the death song. And then I hear go through my head, no, Robin, this is her song of life. She is giving thanks for the life that she's had and going to give. And the python comes, and she's singing, and he swallows her song, her head, her wings, her feet, her tail, and silence. And that's it. And I stood there and cried. Not because she was eaten. I had seen hundreds by this point of life and death, communions. And I say communion instead of confrontation because life merges into life. And I sat down there, and the snake, he was at his most vulnerable when he's swallowing food. I could have killed him. I could have chased him away. You might say, why didn't you chase him if you weren't afraid? You could have taken a rock or a stick. No. When I was very first a young infant in the rainforest, and I use that figuratively as a young woman, I was very unlearned and unconnected to Mother Earth and the rest of myself. And I would fend something off. And then I realized, no, I cannot intervene. Would I want someone to come up and whip away my plate right off the table? No. That snake, that's his meal. And so I sat there and cried, but over the incredible courage of the lark and the whole life and supposed death cycle. And I sat down, and I'm sitting there on the ground, and I look over here to one side, and I see these little red and black ants, and they've got hold of this tan moth, and they're dragging it to their nest, and the moth is flopping around. And I happen to look up in the same instant, and I see two little birds are chasing a bigger bird out of the east. The sun's right in my face, I can't see very well, and the bigger bird has their egg. And so he's taking that either to eat or to raise as his own. Some birds will steal eggs and raise them. And then I look down, and on my leg I'm going like this, and there's a female mosquito, and it's proboscis. It's, has drilled into my leg and is sucking out my warm blood, my life. And I pluck a blade of grass, and I'm eating the grass, life. Pull that blade of grass. It's going into my body. It's a living being, as living as me, as intelligent as me, intelligent as a snake, as intelligent as the bird, the mosquito, the moth, the ants, all of it. And I asked myself, okay, this isn't death. This isn't like, so around me, Everything's eating something. Everything's eating everything. I mean, things are being eaten every single minute of every single day, every single second. How do you come to terms with that, I ask myself? How can I reconcile this? What appears like constant death. Oh, you're telling me there is no death. There is only life flowing into life. It is not separate little organisms. It is all manifestations of this one huge, limitless organism, the living earth, and it extends out into the living universe, and extends out into the stars and the galaxies and other universes and other galaxies. It is all one living consciousness. And it is so in love with itself, so passionate, and so motivated by love that it cannot stop devouring itself to create more and more. So it's like you take a lump of clay and you make something, you smush it back down, you make something else, you smush it back down, you make something else. And it's continual creation. And it was that day was the beginning of my realization I knew where I was and who I was. I knew my place. And I felt passionately in love with the rainforest, with Mother Earth, with Father Sky. This incredible living experience that we call life and all its manifestations. It is highly intelligent. Thank you.